Gayla Kessler, hello and welcome to Weird Church. Nogwam Ingrid, my name is Ingrid, and I want to just offer you the warmest possible welcome that I can. Weird Church is a place of belonging, a place of spiritual exploration, where we come together to learn, to wonder, to play, to pray, to discuss, a place where there are no barriers to belonging. You are welcome here, no matter your race, religion, sexual orientation, gender identity, family structure, whether you have never footset in a church before or you have already uh, gone to several services every Sunday for many, many years. I am the minister of Weird Church, clergy in the United Church of Canada, and it is my honor and privilege to host a community where the wisdom and experience of all is welcome and celebrated. Before we do anything, I want to take a moment and recognize the territory on which we stand. I am recording this from the unceded, the stolen territory of the Kwakwaliwak, the Kwakwala speaking people. And it's important that as a spiritual community that is hosted within the United Church of Canada, we say this every time we gather. It is important because the church uh, has been a part of the colonization project here and around the world, and so we have to tell the truth in order to be part of the decolonization project. So I invite you, no matter where you are in the world, we trust that colonization has touched the land that you are on, and I invite you to take a moment and maybe just breathe in, breathe out, and just allow your gratitude for the land on which you stand to seep into the earth as an act of reciprocity for the land itself, the people who have stewarded the land you are on since time immemorial, who continue to be in relationship with the land. Thank you. I want to invite us, since we're taking some time apart to be here together, just to recognize that shift in energy from all the things that happened before, all the things that are going to happen after. And maybe you're doing something right now in addition to listening. So just taking a moment to be present to what is to come. I invite you to take another deep breath in, a deep breath out, allowing ourselves to arrive all the way. And if you are a person who prays, I invite you to pray with me. As we breathe on this day, we open ourselves to you, God, Spirit, Great Creator, Hashem. On this day, in this moment, we pause. We pause because we can. We pause because we are called to stop even just for a few moments to recenter and refocus on what is most important. We pause to listen and to simply be. In this pause, help us to let go of the challenges, the aches, the unmet needs of the week behind us. We breathe in and we release. In this pause, help us to welcome in all of the good learning and love and tenderness from the week behind us. We breathe in and we absorb. Help us to be present to what we need today in our offering and our receiving, and lead us in the way of love. Show us how. Amen. So I'm recording this in February, which is in our theme of deep listening. So far in this theme, we've explored what it means to open ourselves to deep listening to pause, to be present, to welcome stillness and silence, and actually wait for answers. We explored what gets in the way of deep listening, and we wondered about body listening, listening to our bodies, listening with our bodies as divine instruments. Today we shift into the notion of what should we not be listening to. I am sure we'll have some thoughts about this, but I'm curious, has anyone ever told you to stop paying attention? Not really, right? Sometimes we think about listening and not listening as an idea of self control, maybe. But I actually want to head in a different direction. Who has ever heard the saying, knowledge is knowing tomato is a fruit, wisdom is not putting it in a fruit salad? I invite you to think for a minute about how we know what not to listen to. Does it feel clear? How do we know what not to listen to? I think there's some things we know, right? We know that social media is a trap for our fears and insecurities. We know not to go to social media for assurance, calm. Well, maybe if it's a meditation, but we know not to go looking for water from a dry well, so to speak. It doesn't help us feel better typically. And yet there we are, right? Scrolling. And it isn't just social media. There are loads of things that pull us in, draw us into listening to unhelpful and unnecessary things. Sorry, I just lost my technology for a second there. No problem. We'll get back to it. There we go. I wonder if you've got real life people around you who say thoughtless or careless or even just mean things. Most of us do. And when those things come, we start to churn it over in our minds, right? Why did they say that? What did they mean? Oh, I wish I had said this. And then we're worrying so much about what so and so thinks, even though we may not even like them. Why does what they say even matter? Why am I listening? We know that social media, advertising, our neighbors or coworkers or certain family members have opinions. And we know that it's not helpful or healthy to listen to those things. We know to listen to the words of people who care about us. We know what harms and what heals, really. If we just stop a minute, we know. But we keep going back to those places, those people, and we listen, we give our attention. Why are we listening? To be clear, this is not a new problem. This is a human problem. Long ago, Paul said, I obviously need help. I can will it, but I can't do it. I decide to do good, and then I don't really do it. And then I decide not to do bad, and I do it anyway. Something gets the better of me every time. Those words are 2,000 years old. If we go back even further for guidance, the Israelite king, King Solomon, well, this book is attributed to have written by him. It's called Mishlei Shlomo, the wisdom of Solomon. Shlomo is Hebrew, right? It's also known as the book of Proverbs. So it talks about this very thing, but it's 3,200 years ago. Now, one of the coolest things, one of the most defining characteristics of this book from the Jewish tradition is this recurring figure of Chokmah. It's wisdom personified. The figure is this goddess-like being, similar to the Sophia of Greek philosophy. At first, she appears almost like a prophet of Israel. Wisdom cries out in the street. In the squares, she raises her voice. And throughout it, she appeals to the people directly, urging them to follow her guidance, Lady Wisdom, just like prophets urged Israelites to turn back to God. Her role shifts, though, when she speaks directly in chapter 8. Her divine qualities come through when she places herself right alongside God in that creation narrative. When God established the heavens, I was there. When God marked out the foundations of the earth, then I was beside them like a master worker. Wisdom in all of it. Now, this is where I find it to be extra interesting. The book also presents as a counterpart to wisdom what is often translated as the strange woman, who is prominent throughout the book. Now, she is a seductress. The lips of the strange woman drip honey. Her speech is smoother than oil. Now, of course, like most things, this has been used to control and oppress women. Shocking news, I know. But really, it's teaching the readers or hearers of it about what is often referred to as wisdom versus folly, which I know these are kind of old fashioned, antiquated words, but it beautifully holds the reality of that pull between wisdom, ancient, steady, grounded, thoughtful, generative, that which we know to be true, and her counterpart, alluring, sensual, pulling you in, making you feel good, temporary, fleeting, unsteady, reckless. Let me be clear. This is not to say that sensuality is folly. Don't misunderstand me. Sensuality, using our senses, is part of wisdom, but it's that hit, that temporary thing that is often based in our senses that we're talking about over here. We see this expressed across religious and spiritual tradition, right? That spiritual dilemma, that tension within us between the quick and the damn satisfying temporary, and the long term, steady, and ultimately richer. In Islam, this is where the notion of jihad comes from. As with most religious extremism, we only hear about the ways that it is misused. But at the center of Islam is the idea of this holy war, but it is one within. It's that same struggle between, as Solomon puts it, wisdom, folly, the pull between right and wrong, between what we know will harm and what we know will heal. I want to stay in this notion of wisdom and this invitation to seek after wisdom. Wisdom being that which is steady, grounded, thoughtful, generative, that which when we pause, we know is true. How do I do that? Almost everyone I know, and people I've met over the years, almost everyone I know can experience God, Spirit, that mystery of love that pulses in and through all things. Almost everyone I know feels more connected to that presence outside. And by stopping for just a few minutes, we've been talking all month about deep listening and how we do that. A practice I think we continue to build on throughout our entire lives. One of the ways we do that, we choose that, is by choosing what we are and are not listening to. Where are we tuning our ears? Everything is a decision. When I was in sixth grade, we had a guest come into the classroom to talk to us about mindfulness, which, listen, this was in 1993. Our community school on Bowen Island was very ahead of its time in some ways. She taught me something that I still use all these years later. She said that those thoughts and impulses, those pulls towards what I will call those things that we do not want to listen to, they come. They come. We don't have control over that. They come. And an invitation, when they do come, is to picture a big stop sign in your imagination. Like fill your whole mind's eye with that big red stop sign. And she said, that isn't enough. It's not how our brains work. We can't just stop doing a thing. We have to offer an alternative. So when our thoughts are going to unhelpful places and our hearts are trying to listen in ways that will harm instead of heal, we picture that stop sign and then we lend our attention in a new direction. Now, I'd suggest that she was saying the same thing that Solomon was saying all those years ago. We stop and then we seek wisdom. We set our sights on that which is steady, grounded, thoughtful, generative. For me, the easiest place to do that, to listen to what ancient wisdom has for me, is outside, surrounded by the elders of the trees, the rivers on their course, the rivers flowing through their courses. That helps me get in touch with wisdom, who was present when God set those rivers on their courses, when God tossed those stars in the sky, when God started the beautiful process we refer to as evolution, where the seeds of the trees scatter and grow and the roots run deep. Where is that place for you where you can stop and plug in to that ancient source in a way that helps you be grounded, trusting into trusting into that wisdom, those things we know to be true? I'm glad you were able to be here today. Your presence in the community matters, whether you are listening to a recording or joining online live or in person. The community is shaped by your presence in a good way. I do have an invitation for you to practice. Maybe you're someone who lays out the schedule for your week. That's something I do. So as you're penciling in your time for this meeting and that meeting or this appointment, I invite you to schedule a time for reflective listening. Take up some time. Pause in the quiet, even if it's just for a few minutes. From that posture of open, of curious, of, of that place of saying yes to the possibility of being in communication with God, with that power greater than yourself. And just wait. Wait in that silent stillness into which God, by means of your own body, will speak. Trust in the wisdom that comes. Pay attention to the voice that invites you, hey, less of that, please. And then, as the real hard part, try less of the thing that wisdom is inviting you into less of. And of course, we are safe to do this because no matter where we go, no matter who we are, no matter what we have done or not done, we are a part of that great web of love that holds and animates all things. No matter where we go, no matter what we do, we cannot damage that web. We cannot interrupt that flow of love. We are just loved. A ridiculous, absurd, almost unimaginable amount. So as you go through the week, I challenge you to try to trust that love, to say yes to that love, and to think and act in that way of love. Amen.